Hello everyone, welcome back to the series of tutorials on cybersecurity. I am Deepak Nial, and in this tutorial I am going to discuss about if else in shell scripting. So in previous tutorial you have seen how can we run or execute individual commands in the shell script. But that works fine for sequential operations where you want all command to process in the proper order. However, this is not how all the programs operate. So there is a whole class of commands that allows the script to skip over executed commands based on tested conditions, and these kind of commands are called structured commands, right? So here we are going to learn about if else in shell scripting. If you look at its format is very simple, that you have to write if, then some command, then you have to write then. All these are keywords, you have to write these things, right? Then you can write multiple commands here, like you can write command 1 here, command 2 below this, and so on. And finally you have to end the statement with fi, and this is also a keyword, right? So if you know other programming language, you know that this command is either evaluated to true or false, right? So this is how it works in other programming languages, but this is not the case with bash shell if statement. What happens in other programming language, if this statement is true, then commands in the if statement will be executed, otherwise it jumps out of it. And you might know that there are some else statement also, so else statements are executed, right? But as I already said, this is not the case with shell scripting. So you have to keep this thing in mind, that you don't have to apply all these things that you have learned in other programming language to bash shell scripting. Clear? So in this case, what you do, this command is evaluated in two ways. There is a thing called exit status, and it could be either 0 or non-zero. Clear? So whenever a command is running or whenever a command executes, it returns an exit status, which could be 0 or non-zero. So if exit status of the command is 0, that means command has been executed successfully, and in this case the commands listed under then section are executed. So it means if it is 0, or I can say if exit status is 0, then these commands are executed. Clear? Here you can see that we are only talking about if statement right now. Further we will talk about if and else. So if it is non-zero, right, if it is non-zero, then statements in the else statement will be executed. Clear? But if you have only if, then in case of non-zero it will move out of this whole section. Clear? So I hope you are clear with this format now. We are starting with if or ending with fi, and then there are some commands in between. Clear? So let's take some example and understand this. I am not moving to terminal right now, but you can see all these things here. If pwd, then echo it worked and fi. So just guess its answer. Pwd is a command, right? So when this command executes successfully, it will return 0, right? And when it returns 0, the statement in the then statement will be executed. So its answer will be it worked. Clear? Take another example. This was the first example. Now take one more example here. And you know that this is a valid command, right? Now take some command which is not valid. Maybe you can write I am not a command, and this will be some invalid command. And then you can write echo it works, or when statement ends you can print outside if. Okay, so look at these statements now. You can see that this command is a bad command, right? You might not have seen this kind of command ever, because this is not a command, so it will not work. And when this doesn't work, it will leave a status code which will be non-zero, because this is not getting executed successfully. Clear? Okay, so the answer here should be outside if and not this one. This will not be executed. Clear? You can write if statement in another way. And what is that another way? you can write it like this: if command, and this is similar to this one, if command, but after that you can put a semicolon, then you can write then. It means these things you are writing in a single line, this one and this one. Clear? So everything is coming in one line, and you can do that for convenience purpose if you like it, right? And then after that there will be some commands here, and then you can end the if statement. So if its exit status or exit code is 0, then these commands will be executed. In case of non-zero, it will come out of this statement. Clear? So when I am writing commands here, it means you can write multiple commands here, right? We have generally written a single command, echo it works, echo it worked, but you can write multiple commands here. There is no limit on that. Clear? Now try to run some other examples. What I will do, I will go to the terminal now and show you some examples there so that you can see how it works. Okay, so now I am on the terminal. Let's move to the desktop and create a new file with name if else. Now you can run the command that we have executed first, and you can give semicolon here and then some commands. This was the first statement we written, and now fi after this. Save this file. We need to change its permission, chmod 744, then if else, and now you can execute this file. It has executed pwd and it is giving us current directory here and then giving us an output. It worked. Clear? You can see the content of this file and understand how it worked, right? Now take one more example. I will comment all these things. So how can you comment? Like this. In the first line you have to provide the cell you want to use, otherwise it will use a default cell, which is bash in our case. So I am taking a test user and I will write Deepak here and check whether this particular username is used in this system or not. So I will grep, and what I have to grep, test user, in which file you have to use etc password file. You might know that here all the users are listed, right? So then semicolon, and you can write then, and after that echo. You can give some space here for clarity. This is my first command, this is my second command, and then you can ls the content of directory of that particular user, and I want to find out all the file that have .b format, and it could be anything after that, right? And then fi. So first thing here is, when you are writing test user Deepak, it should exist there. If it does not exist, it will not give any output, right? So just run this script and see whether it works or not. And it is saying no such file or directory. Okay, this is saying for past. I have made a mistake here, so let me change it to password. So that was mistake, right? I'll clear this, and it is not giving us any output because that user does not exist. Now go to the file again and change it to root. As we know, root exists, so you can see here is the first output. I will show you the content of file. So when it grep test user in this file, it is the output of that command. Clear? You might be remembering that we have 7 entries in that file, starting with username and ending with cell name. Clear? So this is my first command, second command, and so on. And ls cannot access home root, and then this thing. Clear? Because we don't have any permission to access that. Let's do one thing. Let's try to run this command on terminal and see whether it works or not. Okay, so do one thing, just try to do ls hyphen a, then home, and you can see there is no root, and that's why we are getting a message that there is no such directory. So do one thing, let us try to check pwd, and we are on root and desktop, so we can use it directly. I will go to the file again, we'll remove home from here. You can just use root, which is test user, and hyphen l, and then you can provide desktop here so that we can see the directory listing of desktop. Cat if else to see the content of file, and then I will execute this if else. So here is the output of this first command, then after that you are getting first and second command, and this is the output of this statement. It's all because we are getting test user root, right? So it is actually checking if a particular username is used in the system or not. We can also do one thing, we can set the username to some undefined user, maybe like this, undefined. This user does not exist in our system, and now execute the file, and we are getting no output. But it would be good if you could show some message regarding this, right? Because right now we are getting no output, and how can we do that? We can use if and else. So how can you use if else? You have to use if, then these are all the statements. After that you can write else, and then some other commands, like I want to show test user does not exist, right? So let's see this whether it works or not, and it is saying undefined does not exist. Clear? So it is the benefit of using else command. You can also nest multiple ifs like you do in other programming languages, and that is because we want to check multiple, or you can say several situation in the script code, right? Okay, so do one thing, let's pick one problem and understand whole thing using that. Clear? So what I will do, I will create a new file, nano multiple if, and the first line is about cell that you are going to use in this file, and then there are comments. Okay, so read the question. What we are trying to do here, we are going to check if username is not in the etc password file, that means user does not exist, but a directory for that user exists, right? Can you understand this thing? Let me show you. I will try to show you the content of password file using this less command, and if you see all this thing from top to bottom, you will find only these users, right? I will exit out of it, and now see the content of home. You can see there are other directories here, but these user does not exist in the system. So you can see there are multiple directories here, but these users does not exist in my system. So for testing this thing, we are writing this program. Clear? These user does not exist, but their directories exist. And why these exist? Because sometimes I've created these users and deleted those users, but these directories are still there. Clear? So let's try to develop this program. If grep, and then you have to write the name test user, and where we want to grep, in the etc password file, and then you can write test user equal to, and any name you wish to give here. I want to put name Deepak. This user does not exist, right? Then you can write comma here, then echo the user test user exists on this system, right? It is when this user exists, but in some another situation I will write echo the user test user does not exist in this system. So these statements are only telling us that user exists or not, right? You can write another if statement and check ls hyphen d, then home, and after that name of test user, and then you can write then maybe here after the semicolon. And if it returns exit code 0, that means this command is successful, and we can write however test user has a directory. And when this if ends, we have to write fi after this, and at the end fi of main if. So you can provide some spaces in this, otherwise it will be difficult to understand. Now program is written, let's execute this program. First I will show you the content of this file. So first thing we have to do is provide permission to this file 744. Now you can execute this code. It is saying the user Deepak does not exist in the system, however Deepak has a directory, and I have shown you the directory, right? It was here. Clear? You can change the program, and you can write root in place of Deepak, and this user exists, right? This is the current user, and here it says the user root exists on the system. Clear? But the way we have written these statements, if else, this is not a good way to write the nested ifs, because code gets hard to read and the logic flow becomes difficult to follow. So instead of this you can use if else. And what you have to do in that, i will just exit this, and first I will rename this if else to the another name, maybe if then. Now I can copy this multiple ifs to the another file, and its name will be if else, because now we are going to use if else. Clear? You can open if else now, and I will change the same program again. Clear? So first of all we have test user. We are using grep command to test whether user exists or not. Suppose this command is not executed successfully, that means user does not exist, right? So if user does not exist, we can write another condition elif, and then you can provide this thing in the elif statement. Just try to copy and paste it here. Clear? So everything is same, you can understand from here. Clear? And we don't need else in this case. We can echo. I will remove this statement now. This if is not required. Clear? This fi is also not required. Only one fi is okay. But if both these statements are false, so what I can do, I can write another else statement, and this will say no test user exists, and another one no directory for the user test user. Clear? So run this command again. So we have to provide permission to this file again, and now you can execute this file. It is saying user root exists on this system, because we have taken example of root. Now try to do something else. Take Deepak here, execute the program. It is saying user Deepak does not exist in the system, however Deepak has a directory. Clear? Now take one undefined user. Undefined, this is not a user in my system, and now you can say ls cannot access home undefined, no such file or directory, and then no defined user exists and no directory for the user undefined. Clear? So now this program has completed successfully. We have learned if else and nested if else till now. Clear? Now you might be wondering if the bash if then statement has ability to evaluate any condition other than a command's exit status code. So the answer is no. it cannot. However, there is a neat utility available in the bash shell script that help you to evaluate other things using if then statement, and we are going to learn this in just a moment. So you have a test command, and this test command provides a way to test different condition in if else, right? So what is the format of this test command? You have to write if, then write test, after that command, and when you write test here, this command evaluates to true and false. Clear? So when it is true, it means the command has executed successfully and its status code is 0. In case of false, it means it is non-zero, right? So when you have written this statement, after that you can write then commands, multiple commands you can write here, and all things will work same that we have discussed previously. Now these if else statement has become like any other programming languages, and you can execute these in same way. Clear? So now let's move to the terminal and understand this test command. I will create a new file, test, or I can write test command. I will create a variable and provide any value to this, maybe Unix, and I will check if test, and after that where, then you can echo true, else echo false. Clear? And after that and with fi, and in the first statement you have to write bin and bash. Clear? One thing always keep in mind that we have to write chmod 744 and then test command. Now you can see the content of this test command file, and after that you can execute this file, and it is getting evaluated to true. Clear? Because we have some value here. So if variable has some value, that means it's true, otherwise it is false. So let's try to change its value to blank or empty, or in the empty case it will be evaluated to false, and here is the answer. Clear? There is an alternative way to write this test condition. Just go to the file, and what can you do? In place of test, you can write square bracket, and even after this you have to write square bracket. And when you are writing variable or any condition inside this square bracket, this means you are writing test, right? So this is an alternative way, but always keep this thing in mind that after square bracket you have to give a space here, and when this ends you have to provide a space here, otherwise it's going to give us an error. Let's remove these spaces and try to run this program, and here is some error, command not found. Let's go to the file again, run this command again, and here is the answer. Clear? If you want to make it true, provide Unix here or any other value, and now it is true. Clear? So this test command can execute any numeric or string or file operations. I will show you an example, and later you can learn more things. So I will comment these things first for you and write some more commands here. So just take one value, v1 which is 10, v2 which is 11. If, then test the conditions. If you want to check whether it is greater than or less than or so on, you have to use hyphen sign, then use gt for greater, and then check v2 and then space and then end, right? And you can write it like this, echo v1 is greater than v2, Otherwise you can write a statement else, and you can say v1 is less than v2. Clear? And end the statement with fi, execute it, and it is saying 10 is less than 11, and that is true. Clear? So actually there are three kind of comparisons that this test command can perform for you. One is numeric, another is string comparison, and the third one is file comparison. So you can see that we have equal sign, another one is greater than equal, third one is greater than only, fourth one is less than equal to, less than, and the sixth one is not equal to, right? So you can use variables here, v1 and v2, and so on for every other command. Clear? For the string you can write some commands like string 1 equal to string 2. It means it is checking whether string 1 is same as string 2 or not. And then you can write string 1 not equal to string 2. It means both are not same. It is trying to test it, right? Then if you want to check whether string 1 is less than another string, you can use this symbol. For the greater you can use this symbol. Then there are two more things like -n and st1. It means it is checking if string 1 has a length greater than 0, and if you want to check whether string has a length 0, then you have to use -z and then string. Clear? So you can take example of these things and understand them easily. And then there are similar things for the file. You can do some comparisons in the files also. So these conditions are like -d and then file. It checks whether a file exists and is a directory. Then it checks whether a file exists or not. Third condition is with -f. It checks if file exists and is a file, right? Here we are checking if it is a directory, and here we are checking if it a file or not. Then -r file. It checks if file is readable or not. -s, and it checks if file exists and is not empty. Sixth one, -w, and in w it is checking if file is writable or not. Similarly, for -x it is checking if file is executable or not. So in all cases it is also checking whether file exists or not, and file is having that particular permission or not. Then -o, it is capital O. It is checking if file exists and is owned by the current user or not. Then ninth one, -g and file. It checks whether file exists and the default group is same as the current user, right? So you know all these things, right? We have seen these by using command ls-l. You can again run this command and see all these characters there. Now there are some other conditions. So the 10th condition is you have to write file1 -nt file2, and it is checking if file1 is newer than file2. It means newer than, right? And if you have something for newer than, we have another thing called older than, and it is checking if file1 is older than file2. Clear? So there are a lot of things. I am not going to show all the examples here. You can try running these commands and test whether these works or not. If you have any confusion or any query regarding any of these things, you can always write in the comments, and I will try to respond back as soon as possible. I know this is a lot of stuff, but still you can try to learn these things by running examples and understand it after that. Okay, so I think this is enough for this video. Let's see you in the next tutorial with some new concept. Till then, thank you so much.